Hello, and welcome back to Longshot Ballerinas, a podcast for adults pursuing excellence in ballet. My name is Sasha, and on this week's episode, we're talking tits. Okay, but seriously, this is an often taboo, undiscussed, elephant in the room type of an issue that a lot of people deal with, especially adults, when we're joining the ballet community. Nobody tells you anything when you're new, and you might have a lot of questions like, should you wear a bra with a leotard? Is it common practice to wear a bra with my leotard? What are my options for extra support under costumes? How do I get over the uncomfortableness of a larger chest when I'm exercising? And so many more. Not only will I be attempting to answer these questions adequately in our episode today, I'm also going to be answering some listener-submitted questions at the end of the episode from Instagram. Please follow me at The Longshot Ballerina to keep an eye out for future polls if you'd like to submit for our next episode, or you can email longshotballerinas@gmail.com, and I'd love to have your input, so feel free to contact. So here's where we're going to get a little bit personal. I'm going to tell you my story, kind of growing up and sprouting ginormous breasts as a young teen. So probably a little TMI. I don't know. Maybe there's some cursing. We'll see. But this is a little more of an adult episode. So you may not want to listen to this around your kids. I don't know. Up to you. But fair warning. So we'll just launch right into it. So I was about 13, I think, when I hit puberty. And at that point, I didn't think too much about it. I was a pretty wide-eyed little kid, kind of, I don't know about sheltered, but I just like to play with animals outside and go to dance. But I really became aware that I was differently sized in the chest area about age 14. I remember really clearly we were working on the ballet Giselle. It was for the spring. And we had a costume fitting. I was just a willy, like a core member willy. And it was a difficult fitting because none of the bodices would fit me. So not only did they have to move the hooks over, but they weren't well fitted to someone who was growing taller like I was. I've been about 5'8" since I was around this age, around, almost 14, about 13 to 14 is when I had my big growth spurt. So not only did I grow tall, I was projecting more outward. And so a lot of my friends were not experiencing the same issues. And I just remember feeling a little confused at why nothing was fitting me properly. I also remember there was a mom that kind of teased me in a good-natured way, but said something like, we'll have to move these hooks over for this young woman. I remember her saying that I was a young woman now, and I didn't understand. It was just very confusing. And so I didn't really put two and two together too much. But then, later on that same year, my mom bought me, I remember, a couple of sports bras, because at that time I was just wearing t-shirts. Like, I wore no support whatsoever, but all of a sudden here come these boobs. And yeah, so she did that. So definitely those were a lot of hints to tell me that I was changing and that something was up. Kind of after that, for every show, I just dreaded the costume fittings because it was the same thing. It only got worse. They only got bigger. And I just began experimenting every time there was a performance, ways I could reduce my chest size / make it look smaller. And this was mostly by squashing it to death, including but not limited to using duct tape. I discovered the hard way that when you remove duct tape from your skin like I was, you end up ripping some of your skin off with you. So that was very painful, but I did that quite a few times. It was very sturdy. Saran wrap was super sweaty and very restrictive and not good for breathing through snow scene. Ace bandages kind of fell off a lot, and they just really weren't compressive enough to what I was needing the larger I got. Sticky bras were just impractical for ballet. I'm not sure why I tried that one. Maybe desperation. Layering bras under Leos. This is something I did a lot, where I would put a sports bra underneath my leotard. Either, I wore like a cap sleeve, something where it was a little less obvious, but you could always see it, and that made me self-conscious because I was the only one. There was maybe one other girl who did a similar thing to me. We also tried layering our leotard. So I would wear like a camisole leotard on top of a long sleeve, for instance. And sometimes it was cute, but mostly it was just me trying to, shrink myself. I also tried for a little bit later on in life, before my surgery, but more in college, later in high school. just losing a little weight. I know my friends would always say, "Oh, I don't want to lose weight because my boobs are going to shrink." And I was like, "Oh, ding, ding, ding." My little light bulb in my head goes, "Hold on a second. I could do that." So I tried exercising extra, drop a couple of pounds. Unfortunately, I have this genetic thing that gives me super dense, very glandular tissue. So it doesn't matter how skinny I get, my boobs were not shrinking at all. So I did pretty much everything I could think of as a young person to try and remedy this. And I was so self-conscious of this part of my body, and I was really jealous that my other dance friends didn't seem to have to worry about this at all. They would swap clothes. Even my sister, I kind of outgrew her in the boobs department too. She's 6 years older than I am. And I remember her, she used to work at an Abercrombie, and she stopped handing me down clothes because I remember her saying to me, and it was so mean, that she didn't need to hand me down anything anymore because I wouldn't fit the clothes anyway. So, that did wonders for my already fragile, body conscious self, little baby Sasha. So I sort of just, I don't know, did what I could, swept it all under the rug, tried to enjoy dancing as much as was possible, kind of thinking there really wasn't a solution for me. And I stopped dancing full-time-ish around 17 and really got into music. I discovered a few years earlier than that, probably actually around the time I was 13, I began kind of singing at home and a little bit at my church at the time. And that ended up being just something I had much more of a natural knack for. And so I decided to audition and go to college for vocal performance. I know I sound like I'd have such a fun singing voice, really pretty, but I do. I'm a great singer, if I do say so. So I kind of put dancing on a shelf, went to college, and then in college as a normal person, quote normal, non-dancer, I was pretty popular, or at least I would say, the boys liked me, and the girls, the boobs were happy. So I guess I don't know if I leaned into it, but it was a thing. And I ended up also auditioning for the dance company on campus called Orcuses, which was a wonderful experience. I miss all those people. Wonderful time. But, so I did keep up my dancing a little bit as I met some new people and faces at the school. I actually went to college in my hometown, so I didn't move away. I was still kind of close to family. So anyways, I gained a little bit of weight. I was probably about 145 pounds, which was up probably 15. So yeah, I suppose I did get kind of the freshman 15. I hadn't really thought about it, but I think it took me a couple of years. But anyway, so the boobs were still big, but the rest of me was almost, I don't want to say more proportional, but I think maybe it didn't seem as drastic because I wasn't in a leotard and tights every day. The dance company was more of a modern base, so it was nice. I remember being just happy to focus on music and doing something I was really successful at, and which was very cool. Near the end of my undergraduate work in music, I did 5 years of undergraduate. I became burnt out, and I think the burnout really started probably the end of my third year. I ended up with some very big leading roles in my first 2 years at my university. I choreographed for one show that I didn't end up singing in because I had just gotten kind of overwhelmed, but eventually I played a dream role of mine, which is Mabel from Pirates of Penzance. I do have some video of that, and there's some dancing in there, so maybe I'll throw it on the Instagram when I find it. But yeah, so I really kind of got to do all the things I wanted to do, which was wonderful, but I think it led me to really miss ballet. So in my fourth year, I started to look at possibly going to a graduate program for dance. The ones I was looking at, I had convinced myself that I needed a modern-based program with a teaching focus in order to be a well-rounded dancer, teacher, and etc. And this is true. There is nothing wrong with that. And so I was still feeling pretty self-conscious and miserable while moving. I had started to lose a little bit of that, extra weight that I had gained, and exercising a bit more, and just kind of trying to shape my thoughts of what I wanted for my future. And so I began to research options for surgery. Yeah, so I don't know what was the catalyst for me to really feel like this, but I was definitely desperate enough to do super well on my auditions for my graduate programs that that's the road I started to go down. And, as I concluded kind of researching the programs, decided where I wanted to apply, I also made the decision that I did want to get a reduction and a lift. It's kind of a twofer in time to audition for my graduate dance programs. So again, this was end of 2011, early 2012. And yeah, I would be applying to those and auditioning for those programs the following January, February for a fall of 2013 school year start. So now you have a little bit of background of, the trials and tribulations that I went through. And so now let's get into the breast reduction itself. So obviously I made that decision. I decided to. So again, it was mostly because I wanted to audition for dancing graduate schools. And at the time, the fact that I had a large chest, I knew for sure was going to hold me back. It's just kind of how things worked at the time. There was not a lot of body diversity. Not that that's the thing is, you'd look at me from behind and I looked like a pretty thin fit person. I turn around, you're like, oh my God, you're going to poke somebody's eye out with those. So yeah, I was feeling like that could hold me back. Whether or not it would have actually, I have no idea because I did it. But yeah, that's where my headspace was. And again, I did get a reduction and a lift. So that's where they take stuff out of you and they sew you up in a way that perks everything up. And as far as I understand, that is the best way to go if you're looking for a lift, because if they just take stuff out of you, you're going to just hang down where you were before. And I had, I think, almost 2 pounds of tissue taken out total. So it can be a lot, depending. In 2012, so the cost itself with pre and post-op plus meds included was about $7,500. That's in 2012 dollars. So I adjust it for inflation. But yeah, that actually was cheaper than I thought it was going to be. I thought that it was going to be astronomically like $10,000, $12,000. Turns out that a reduction is a lot cheaper than implants, which I didn't know until I researched all this. And unfortunately, I couldn't get it covered by, I didn't want to get it covered by insurance, as my insurance was going to require me to fail 3 different types of physical therapy for, quote, back pain over a 2-year period. So obviously that was not working, fitting into my time plans. And I honestly didn't have any back pain because my back was really strong. Dance makes your body really strong. So of course I had a strong back. I had a great arabesque back in the day. So that was just not going to work for me. So I worked over the summer and a few months, saved about half, and I put the other half on a medical credit card. Now, what I did to prepare was look at a lot of tits, which sounds ridiculous, but I have seen so many boobs. I looked at pictures of boobs for months, searching for somebody. Obviously, at the time I didn't say this, but at the time I was living in Washington State, so I knew I wanted somebody in the area. I wasn't going to be flying or driving or anything like that. And so that's what I did. I looked at every plastic surgeon that was reputable, board certified, that checked all of the safety and security boxes. And and then you just go and you look at all of their work, and you look at the entire gallery from people who you look specifically for people who seem like they are structured a little similar to you, because obviously someone who carries a lot more weight on their body, their end result is going to look probably a little different. So it's just like kind of getting a haircut. You want to choose a haircut that you can see an example of the haircut on someone with your face shape. So I did that. I did a lot of digging and looking at the results that each doctor was able to achieve. Something they also told me as I contacted offices and asked about details was to make sure that I was at a weight that I was comfortable with before the surgery, because any weight loss or gain post-op can affect your results. So, I had that in mind. I found that out pretty early on before I had scheduled my surgery. And I can't remember, how far out I had scheduled it. That's something that escapes me. But it was long enough to where I did end up losing some of the extra weight I had gained. I basically just focused on getting really strong and super fit, because I knew I was going to be sitting on my butt for a long time after this surgery, right before I was going for all these auditions. Not right before, but, within a few months. So it was very important to me to maintain my physical fitness right before I went in. So I did end up at about 115 pounds. But yeah, so that was something they made sure to tell me. They're like, look, if you want to lose 35 pounds anyways, do that before you come see us, because if you have the surgery and then you lose 35 pounds, you're going to end up with results that you were not expecting. So they were very clear about that. And it wasn't a shameful thing. They didn't tell me to lose weight. Let me be clear. They said, just be sure that, if you're going to go one way or another, get that over with and be happy and somewhere you can live consistently at, a weight you can be consistently existing at. Otherwise, you could be wasting money here. And then I also made sure that the place that I went to was an ambulatory surgery center. I didn't want to stay overnight in a hospital. So that's what that is. It's an outpatient facility, and they're able to do more serious medical procedures. It can be lots of different things. So I stayed overnight in a hotel right across the street. And what was really neat is the doctor came over the next day without me having to get out of bed and did all my post-op and looked at my drains and et cetera, which was very cool. So I think I had a deal with the hotel. So we got a discount based on the fact that we were going to this doctor's office. So that was neat. And then I guess I'll give more advice on this later, but make sure when you're doing this, like I did, choose a surgeon that's top 10 in either the country or I would say top 5 in your state. If you want to do this, do not cheap out. If you can't afford somebody reputable and safe, you cannot afford anyone, because this is a very major surgery, okay? This is general anesthetic. This has really big risks, especially if you're older or you smoke or et cetera. They tell you all these things ahead of time, but I just want to say it too. Like, if you're someone who feels like they desperately want to get this done, please, please, please do your homework. I am so happy with my surgeon, and I could have picked somewhere that was cheaper. Honestly, I think I saw places for like $5,000, but I'm like, what's another $2,000 for this thing that's A, going to change my life, and B, is putting my life in the hands of somebody else. So please do your homework and don't cheap out. Don't fly to some place that's going to offer to do it for $1,500, okay? I don't want to read about you on the news. Anyway, so the procedure itself, let's keep going. This is like, it's escaping me because it was so long ago, but I'm pretty sure that I had 2 pre-op exams. The first one was like a consultation, and they kind of looked at me to see if I would be a candidate. And I think I sent photos in too. And then the second one is when I actually put my deposit down. So I paid half in a check, cash. I paid half cash, and the other half, they had a deal going with the Care Credit, which is a medical credit card of 0% interest for 24 months, which was like, oh my gosh, amazing. And so I think that ended up being about $3,200 that I paid, maybe a little more, maybe $37 on that credit card. And then I had the 2 years to work on it. But and then they also, because I have a little bit of hearts conditioning, weird, wrong stuff in my family, they had me take a King of Hearts test, which is basically like this little machine that you wear, and it monitors your heart rhythms for a week. So I did that for a week to make sure my little heart was okay. And I just remember the doctor telling me, he just shook his head. And they even he wrote a letter petitioning my insurance to please cover it, because he said, I have never seen anyone in my practice that needs this surgery more than you do. This is terrible. You have such a tiny frame, and the dense breast tissue must be so uncomfortable. And he was super just kind and understanding and wonderful. Nobody in their office ever shamed me or anything. They were lovely. I just adored them. But yeah, I was about a 30 to 32 G/H. So you can imagine. And I weighed 115 pounds. And I lost a bunch of weight. I was super fit, and my size of my breast did not change at all. So it was very cool to have somebody in the medical field. Obviously, he wants to sell me a surgery, but you can tell, he listened to me and definitely assuaged some of my mom's fears. She went with me to a couple of those pre-op appointments. And I think because he was so confident and so caring and the whole team was great, it made the whole experience just very pleasant and low stress. Then, of course, he discussed the risks with me, including like going under general anesthetic. You can die. Death is part of the risk that you sign off on. I signed, I think, a lot of papers. I don't remember. And then if you've ever done general anesthesia, you don't eat 12 hours before. So we did spend a night in a hotel, not the same one, but nearby, because we lived about 90 minutes away over a mountain pass. So we spent the night before, got in for an early surgery. I think they checked me in at like 7, maybe. I remember them yelling at me because I wore mascara and I forgot I wasn't supposed to because they would tape my eyes shut. So anyways, and then that day I met with the doctor again and the anesthetist. Is that how you say that? Anesthetist? I think so. And he marked me up with a purple marker, just like in the movies. Have you guys ever seen that show, Nip Tuck? Just like that. but less sleazy. But yeah, he drew on me and measured me and everything while I was sitting up, because they operate on you as you're lying down, but they move you up and down as you go. And then they want your new structure to be supported and looking good when you're sitting up. So they draw on you like that, which is kind of a funny moment. It was interesting. And then they wheeled me into the operating room. So I climb up on the table by myself, and they literally strap you to this table like Jesus style. Sorry, I'm not religious, so I'm not trying to be blasphemous or anything, but literally like your arms out to the sides, and they strap your arms down. And then they put on these like chilly leg squeezy things where it like keeps, for your circulation, because I don't remember how long the surgery was, but it was a few hours, so I was there. And then, put the little mask on, and then they asked me to count down from 10, and I think I got to like 10, and then I was out cold, so... And then, of course, time passes in a blink of an eye. So I woke up. I did have a lot of pain for like a very brief moment, but the nurses were right there as I woke up. And so they were able to push me some, I think they said they were giving me a little morphine right after. So I was happy. It was good. And pretty much my pain was well managed after that. That was really the only time I had like, oh my God, this hurts so bad. And then it was over. Like as soon as I had the thought to process how badly it hurt, then it was gone. So that was great. They were very, very attentive nurses. And then as far as recovery, like I said, I stayed in a hotel across the street. So the doctor came to do my post-op visit the next morning. And then I think from there, I want to say we spent one more night just because, and then we drove home. So again, we lived 90 minutes east of Seattle at the time. And they had very strict instructions about the narcotics, because they did give me oxy. I don't remember if they were still doing cotton at the time. I think it might have been codone. But anyways, I was only to take those for 3 days, and my mom was the one who was in charge. So, and I was in no shape to like be trying to take my own drugs anyways. But yeah, so then after that, I was on Tylenol 3 for maybe another week. And then after that, it was mostly just regular Tylenol. So it was really maybe 3 days of, if I didn't take those meds, I probably would have been quite uncomfortable. And then I also had drains. They send you home with drains, which are kind of gross, but it's just your bodily fluids. And my mom helped me with those, thank goodness. And it's uncomfortable because it's basically a tube in the sides of you. And then I had those for about a week. Then I went back to the office so that they could remove the drains and check my stitches and everything, make sure it was all healing properly. So thankfully I didn't have any issues with infection. The drains that was not fun. I do remember that right now. I do remember it was like, ooh. And I have like 2 little incisions that you can see. Those didn't heal as well as the other scarring. But yeah, and then I had another post-op visit, I think 2 weeks later, and then one more 1 month later. I might be conflating those two, but yeah, I had total 8 weeks free from any major movements. They did allow me to do, once I got through kind of the, I think it was after the first month. I think it was the first month, nothing at all pretty much. But after that, I could do no impact cardio, like the bike where you sit down and you push, just your legs, and walking in order to slow my muscle loss. Because I had told them about that. I said, here's, this is why I'm doing this. I really don't want to be coming out of this 2 months later, a total potato, because I can't, move, because I haven't been moving. So they said that was totally fine. That helps to stave off the muscle loss. And then I was also required to sleep on my back for 2 months. And actually, you're supposed to do it forever because of, obvious reasons. Gravity can screw things up. But I sleep on my side. I've always slept on my side. I sleep actually like a weirdo flamingo, like half side, half front, with like one knee up to like my ear. I'm weird. But yeah, so yeah. Gravity is a thing, and that has definitely affected it. But for a long time, I slept on my back. I was not allowed to lift more than 5 pounds, and I was not allowed to raise my arms over my waist height, or maybe a little higher than that, maybe like the bottom of my ribs. Very, very low range of motion, because obviously they are taking this tissue, they're cutting it off of your muscle wall. So you definitely don't want to be moving anything around at all. So I was really careful about that. I have high anxiety, so that helped me heal really well. And honestly, if I didn't have my mom helping me, she was wonderful. And at the time, like I said, it was my last year of school, and I was living at home. So I'm very lucky that I had someone to support me. My expenses were very low. So she also helped me wash my hair. She put everything in the house at countertop height. So the whole kitchen she rearranged so I could get a glass of water, so I could do some things on my own without, having to bother her every 5 seconds. But really, she got me a little step stool. She just made everything very accessible for me while I couldn't lift my arms up which was wonderful. And I adore her. She helped me change my paper tape. So you put paper tape on your incisions, so that way it holds them together and it helps with scarring. So a lot of times I forget I've even had it done when I look at me. And, partners I've had since then, and once I had healed, they didn't know until I told them. Like literally, anybody who has seen me naked, they usually didn't notice until I told them. By the way, I had giant tits. So that's cool. They did a really wonderful job with the incisions. I had dissolving stitches, so I didn't have to get any stitches out, which was nice. And I was required to wear a front closing compression bra for a really long time. And honestly, I used it way past what was necessary because I really liked the feeling and the look. I was just so thrilled I was like, oh, where did my boobs go? I was just over the moon. It was so cool. So I kept wearing it because I just liked the way it looked. It made me feel like a dancer. And the doctor, he said, he's like, I'm not going to he didn't reduce me down as far as I initially asked for. I wanted to be around like a big C is what I asked. And I remember him giving me this look. He's like, I could do that for your proportions. I worry that could be, you might be upset later down the line. And he said, it is a lot easier for us to go in and cheaper for us to go and less painful for you to go in and take more out if you'd like, at a follow-up surgery or whatever, than to have to put more back in because you went too far. So he's like, we're going to leave you we'll get you to a D. We'll get you to a D-ish. And, and they did. I went down from about 32G/H. It was like a big G to a large D cup. So yeah, he did what he said he was going to do. And mostly I would say I'm pretty happy about it. Now, as far as it has changed, obviously this is the thing everybody wants to know. How did it change my dancing for good and for bad, for better and for worse? Immediately. Now, this was, of course, 8 weeks later once I was allowed to go back to dance. It was almost exactly where I had gone to my follow-up and I had no more pain. And so I got to go to ballet. And I remember the first class like it was a week ago. Immediately, I knew my balance had changed. When we got to turns, and obviously I was out of shape, but when we got to pirouettes, I was compensating backwards so far from the previous front heaviness that I had to I had to relearn turning. I had to, put my center of gravity quite a bit more than I expected over, towards the front of my body. So that was really interesting, kind of having to just see how that affected my posture and everything. But also immediately I was just confident and free. I was so free. I can't describe to you what it felt like to go from this thing that you're constantly trying to hide and you're just so ashamed. And, I shouldn't have been ashamed necessarily, but it bothered me and I felt like it brought me attention I didn't want and it was horrible. And to be able to walk into a class and feel like I could fly. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I fly for a living, and let me tell you, this was more exhilarating than anything I've ever experienced in my life, which sounds sad, but it was such a huge change. You just don't think you can change your body. I never thought I could change that as a kid. I thought I was just stuck with this, and ballet doesn't want me, and nobody wants me to dance because look at my boobs, which is sad. I mean, poor little baby Sasha, but we're doing better now. But still, I didn't have to consider options for extra support, and my normal leotard sufficed. I could just put a leotard on. It was, again, I was ecstatic. Yeah, and I was going to put bad effects, but really there are zero bad effects. I really wish I'd done it sooner as a teenager. Maybe once I had actually stopped growing more breast tissue, I think that would have been important, obviously. Like if my body was still trying to generate it, I probably needed to make sure it was done. So maybe that was for the best. I just love shopping for new clothes. And for new bras, I went from the one bra brand that made a size that would fit me at Nordstrom for $85. And when you're like a little kid, I was 17 or 18. My parents couldn't afford to buy me a new bra when I needed it. I had like two. I went to being able to put anything on, go in anywhere and put anything on. It was just amazing. And then long-term effects and risks, these are some pretty big ones. And I think one of them will answer one of our questions from our listeners. But it is always a possibility, and they explain this to me, that a reduction / lift will leave you unable to breastfeed in the future. And yeah, I knew at that time, I've known forever since that's not something I wanted to do, is be a mother or not birth children. So that wasn't a worry for me. So I said, yep, totally fine. They're like, we'll try our best to maintain the duct work, but I let them know that's not a priority. So, make my boobs nice. I don't care about the milk. But they do recommend, if you do have those urges to procreate, that you should wait until after all of your childbearing, because it'll mess it up anyways. And it's kind of like chucking money out the window, because the way that the breast will grow and shrink between children and while you're breastfeeding children, you're basically like, it's too many variables going on. Plus it'd be painful, and you kind of like wait until you're done using them and then make the adjustments. So that was what they told to me, and I assured them it's no big deal. They did say that it's possible to have a reduction and still be able to breastfeed later. It's just the chances go down. That it is a risk factor if that's what you are concerned with. Now, they are super weird shaped now from the sides when I lay down. So if I lay down on my side, because of the way that they remove the tissue in this particular method, they like scoop it out from the sides. And so you maintain like cleavage in the front. So once they sew you back up, so they scoop it out from the sides, they sew you back up, and then you still have the volume at the center of your chest. And that's, just for visuals pretty much. And so they seem pretty normal. But when I lay down, it's like someone like took an ice cream scoop and like scooped out a side of my breast. It's quite funny. Like, I think it's hilarious, but yeah, so that it doesn't bother me. So that's fine, but that might be weird to you. I do have some lingering nerve damage in a very small spot. For a long time, I could not feel, like right after the surgery, I could not feel my nipples, and I could not feel from like the midline of the breast out to the sides, like to the outside of the body. That was just like completely numb. And they told me that was normal, and that the nerves will, to an extent, regenerate, sometimes all the way, sometimes not very much at all. It just kind of depends on your body and how you heal. But yeah, I've pretty much gotten all sensation back except for like a teeny tiny little spot, which is just, it's not even like I'm trying to feel for it now. It's not even like numb. It's just reduced sensation. So that hasn't been an issue for me, but it was weird for a while. And then, of course, like I said, this is under general anesthesia, so there are always risks for this major surgery. Previously, I'd gone under general anesthetic twice for some orthodontia and some teeth work, so they were pretty confident that I wasn't going to have a bad reaction, but it's always good to read up on the risks of general anesthesia in case maybe you have someone allergic in your family. Just do your homework on that. And 11 years later, this is my 11th anniversary, is November 30th. My boobiversary, as I fondly like to refer to it. I have gained and lost weight kind of here and there. And so, I do notice some changes in my breast as I, like right now, I've been dancing a lot. I'm kind of focusing on getting into really fit shape and losing a little bit of fat. And I do notice that I am losing some volume, kind of up by my shoulders and my pectorals, sort of the front of my chest. And so because of that, I'm, losing a little bit of body fat. There's not as much volume there. So, that's what's going to happen. And that's okay. I mean, if I wear a sportive bra, it's like no big deal. And they're certainly not like, droopy or back to where they were in any capacity. But the gravity has taken its toll over 11 years. And I do not have the lift that I left with when I, did the surgery initially. So, that being said, I do find myself pondering kind of when I will go back in for another touch-up. And I will say, yes, it is a when, it is not an if. I will 100% do this again, 100%. And most likely I'll ask them, and I don't know if I'll go to the same doctor, but I will ask them to reduce me just a little bit again. It's just kind of, might as well, they're in there, just scoop a little extra out. So it is, they told me that. They're like, it's between 10 and 15 years. We usually see people who are interested, or if they have a major life event like having kids, or if they did, gain a lot of weight, just depending on what your body does, you may want to change some of your results. So I definitely am thinking about it. I'm not in a big hurry. It's fine, but I would love to be like one more size down. I'd love to be at that C that I wanted, in the first place, but I'm happy that I didn't go there right away because I really enjoyed the way that they were and the work that he did. So, I would do it again, 100%. And overall, an excellent experience, beginning to end. I did have a lot of help, though. I want to be clear about that. And so I would advise anyone interested in the surgery to adequately prepare. Like once you decide where you're going to go and you've done all that homework, make sure you prepare for enough assistance with all of your like regular person work, like adult work job, your chores, your childcare if you have them, Even regular things like eating and showering. Again, I couldn't wash my own hair. I mean, I just wore a bikini, and my mom helped me wash myself forever, for a long time, for like a month. I would say at least plan for a month. You might recover faster. You might, I don't know what the techniques are now 10, 12 years later. So it could be, an even quicker recovery for you. But by kind of padding out your surgery time and around it with some assistance, that's going to help you with your recovery, because you're not going to be sitting there stressed and or trying to do things you shouldn't be doing too early in your recovery process. I was pretty helpless in the first week at the very least, maybe even two, probably more like two. I have to ask my mom. I should have asked my mom. And even though I could do like progressively more, like a little more and more each day, it was, like I said, it was better recovery to have zero worries while I rested up. That could be difficult for those of you who work full time and don't get a lot of time off. Again, I was a student, so I did have like a little part-time job at the school, but I think I just asked them to not schedule me for a while. So it was my situation at the time was very flexible, and that's just may not be as possible for those of us who are adults now. That's what I would have to do. I'd probably take vacation. I'd probably stack all my vacation, maybe take a COLA, which is a company offered leave of absence we have. Yeah, it would take a little bit of organizing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was the whole thing. That's the story. So hopefully you find that interesting. If you have more questions about this, I love talking about it. I love kind of giving people my experience, whatever you're curious about, because there wasn't a lot of info on the internet at the time for me. I kind of had to find it all out myself. So please get in contact with me if you have more questions about breast reduction. So now, the part of the podcast where I give you solutions for some of these issues. If you're someone who is dancing ballet and you have a larger chest and you're just kind of, you're trying to work with it, but it's giving you problems, okay? So these are non-surgical options, okay? First one is finding supportive dancewear, which can be both really frustrating, super obnoxious, time-consuming, can make you feel bad about yourself, like you name it. It's tough. Luckily, there are so many wonderful brands these days that are making ranges of products that are more size inclusive, which can help those of us with bigger chests. And they're also not ugly and frumpy anymore. There's really, really cute ones. So my favorite one to start with is Jewel Dancewear. That's Jule. You may have heard of the brand before. They are famous for their meshies line, which is like meshy tight. They're mesh tights, mesh little crop top, mesh little SAB skirts. They're very cute. I have some of their products. And she specifically went into business to design leotards that have support for dancers with larger chests. And she does have a large chest. And she was a principal dancer at Miami City Ballet and a wonderful balancing dancer. She was also, I want to say, with the Los Angeles Ballet for a while too. So wonderful line, really cute, really high quality. The one thing I would caution is they do run a little short in the torso, at least for me. I have not a super long torso, but my girth measurement is, I think, 60 or 61 inches. So I usually will they're super compressive, so I will buy a large sometimes just to get a little extra length. But otherwise, they have wonderful styles that a lot of them can be worn with a bra if you'd like to wear a bra underneath your leotard. So those can easily hide them. And they're just fun, bright colors, and they are really easy to coordinate and mix and match a lot of their products. So please check out Jewel Dancewear. The second one is Chameleon Activewear. Everybody loves Chameleon. They run really cute prints on all of their leotards. I've been loving them. I bought one that's like a parrot one. And what's nice about it has a nice high back, so you get that support all the way around the chest. There's also options to order them lined or unlined, so if you want an extra layer of fabric on the front just to have more coverage and more support, they have options for that. It adds, I think, a little bit of money on top of it, but otherwise you could also wear a bra with this if it was kind of maybe like a balconette style where it's not peeking out. So I love those styles. They are really cute, and some of them are limited edition. I think they have their holiday styles out right now, so go check out Chameleon Activewear. That is by a dancer from American Ballet Theater, which is very cool. The third company needs no introduction. That is Cloud and Victory by Min. She has really cute designs, and all of her dancewear is made to be super compressive. I have the Fairy Lights leotard, which I think she just restocked. I don't know if they're still there. Their products tend to go really fast, but it's a long sleeve leotard. It's pink and blue and mesh and cute. And yeah, she has really fun marketing. She's super sweet. So check out Cloud and Victory. They also make their leotards, I think, all the way up to 3X right now, and maybe more in some styles. I'm really unsure about that. So there are plenty of options for all sizes of dancers. She also has really fun prints. I've seen like a cat leotard. I don't know if that one's available anymore, but oh my gosh, so cute. Definitely check her out. She drops products pretty infrequently, so just follow her on social media, Cloud and Victory, to know when the next leotards and other dancewear products are available to order. The fourth one is Maria. That's a dancewear brand. I usually order off of discountdance.com. And I would say this one is really wonderful because they tend to make leotards that are a little bit longer. So if you're someone who does need more coverage in the chest, I find that because the leotards are longer, we've got more fabric available to go over the girls completely. So some of the styles are not friendly for large chests, like the open back styles, but her high neck, mock neck, anything with a long sleeve, I just think they're cut really beautifully. They're sort of like a fake Yumiko. So check those out. They really do have a nice long torso. So as much as I love the ease of ordering online all of my dancewear, I'm only able to do that now because I have tried on a lot of brands in person. Forgot to mention Wear Moi. I do like their leotards. They are longer in the torso as well. They're not as supportive as those other options, but if you need a longer torso one, I do like Wear Moi. But again, I tried that brand on actually in San Francisco at a dancewear store, and I was like, wow, I've never worn this brand before, and this looks really good on me. This is super flattering. The leg line is nice. Like the whole thing just looks really pretty. So now I put that in my pile of, okay, if I see a Wear Moi sale, then I'm going to go check out and see what leotards I think I might like to try. So if you can, definitely try on as many brands as you can at your local dance shop, or even when you're traveling. Just put them on your body. That's going to be the best way to figure out if it's going to be comfortable for you. And make sure you do a little wiggle around in the leotard, like put your hands above your head, bend down and touch your toes, like get a little bit of movement in it to make sure it doesn't ride up or it doesn't feel weird. And if something's not quite right, don't buy it. If it isn't going to make you feel 100% every time you put it on, don't buy it. It's just going to sit in the back of your closet and you'll never wear it and you'll feel sad. So try stuff on and then order online once you know the brands that work for you. Another thing to do is to take and know your accurate body measurements. This will help you with shopping as well. And don't cheat them, okay? Make sure you're using a mirror or a friend to help you record the numbers. Remember, it's just information. They're just numbers. It's only to help you buy things that will fit your body properly. So don't squeeze the tape measure super, super tight to get another 2 inches off your waist, okay? It's not worth it. And then you're going to end up buying something that's not going to fit you. And then you're going to, A, waste money, B, feel terrible when you put it on, and C, you could have just bought the right size and then you'd have a great new leotard, okay? Or even for tights, anything like that. That's a really good advice, I think, just in general. Once you know your measurements, you can go shopping. I do this all the time. You go shopping in a store, I just take my tape measure and I measure things. I don't have to try them on because I can just measure it and know if it's going to fit me. So that's one little life advice I have for you. But also don't ignore the girth measurement that I mentioned. That's the one where you put the measuring tape through your legs and then you hook it over the top of your shoulder. You stand nice and tall. And so it's kind of like at a diagonal. It comes over the shoulder. And then that will tell you how long your torso is. And most leotard companies do post a girth measurement. And that will show you a range. It's usually like mine. I usually try and buy the ones that are between 59 and 61. They don't always have that stretch. Sometimes they're a little lower than that. I really need something that will stretch to that 61 or I'm getting a wedgie. And then there may not be enough material on the front of the leotard to adequately cover my chest and support me. If it's pulling up, it's just going to feel funny and it's going to smash me down all weird. So definitely know your girth measurement at the very least and use that whenever you're buying a leotard online. And in order to have the most compression from a single leotard alone, this is if you're trying not to layer other garments underneath it or other leotards, try a different brand, like I said, instead of going up a size for the girth. So some brands, for instance, I do need a large for my height, but if I do that, I'll lose a supported feeling in the width because now it's a little bit too wide. The increase in the width is going up too much for the increase in the height. So in that case, I probably just put that leotard away because I definitely know, A, I don't want a wedgie, B, I need enough fabric, in front to cover my chest like I like. So I'll go to a different brand. For instance, Maria. That's when I found that the torsos are really nice. I can actually sometimes even order, depending on the style, I can order down and order a small instead of a medium because there's that little extra room in the torso. And then I really get the leotard to squeeze me snugly like I like it. So there are also some brands that have tall versions, and that's another thing that you can do is buy the tall version, get a size down so you know it's going to be long enough for you, and then it'll squeeze you in. Of course, this is at your own risk because it may be that it's a little too small and maybe you don't want to be squeezed in, but I like to be squeezed. So if you're like me, that's some tips I have for you in kind of trading out dancewear brands as opposed to changing the size all the time. And then the best advice, I think, is avoid low back leotards, okay? Avoid low back leotards. It's my favorite look. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but it will not support you. It will support you actually not at all. Because if you think about it now, you've just got probably a little shelf thing, in the front, and nothing, no compression coming from the back at all. There's no support there. So you're basically relying on the shoulders of the leotard. And depending, if you have if you have a heavy chest, that isn't going to do anything for you. So avoid that low back, go for high back instead, which can be really elegant too. If you do kind of like the mock neck leotard, it's gorgeous because it does lengthen up the back of your line because you have that unbroken line from the top of your neck all the way down to your butt. So don't shy away from those. I think some people think they can be frumpy or they may be just a little too restrictive for you. So in that case, stay away. But don't do that super low scoop back that sometimes, usually it comes around every like 10 years. It's super popular. Instead, go for those supportive backs so that you can hide a bra if you want to. And that way you're not worried about bouncing around during class. But also don't worry about wearing a bra underneath and it showing, especially if you're usually in an adult dance class. It's not an uncommon practice. It really isn't. And if it makes you more comfortable, you should do it because that means you're going to be paying less attention to your chest and more attention to your dancing and your technique. So this could really help you out if you're just feeling like you're always fussing around with your boobs during class. I would say it'll stick out more if you're in a class that has more students, younger students. But even then, just be confident. And you're not a student. You are a student, but you're not a kid's age, right? So adults have different needs. So don't be afraid to support yourself, literally and figuratively, the way that you want to, just because maybe not everyone around you is doing the same. Now, as far as mindset goes, I think some of the best advice I have to kind of tell myself as I still struggle with feelings of I don't like the size of my chest even now is it's just a thing I have and it's part of being who I am. And I can reduce the movement, but then I also have to accept that it's there. They are there and they're going to grab your attention once in a while, for better or for worse. And getting used to that feeling of a bouncing chest is just kind of like getting used to feeling the wind when you walk outside. Sometimes the wind doesn't feel very good, but it's just the wind and you're used to it. If I'm having a fun time outside with my friends and it's freezing and windy, or I'm laughing with my boyfriend, we go on a walk, I'm not thinking about the wind. I'm thinking about the fun time I'm having while I'm experiencing this. So maybe do a little bit of thinking on that or journal a bit and see if you can't reframe how you think about your chest when you're in the dance studio. Now, more practically, I have a couple of points of advice for you as you are being fitted for costumes. More and more these days, adult dancers are getting performance opportunities, which is fucking fantastic. There's my one fuck. Actually, I guess that was two. for the episode. But often this might be the first time you've ever had a costume fitting in your life, especially if you didn't do any theater or dance, prior to coming to ballet. This might be the first time you've ever had this experience. So if you want to kind of get a proactive leg up on, any type of bad feelings that could come from having a costume that doesn't fit you, here is my advice to you. Ask about the proposed styles before the fitting. So if you've been told there's going to be a performance, most likely there's going to be a costume associated, even if it's one that you help provide parts for. A lot of times it'll be everyone wear a black leotard and then we'll, give you skirts or etc. It could be anything, but ask about those specifics before they bring you in on a day to get you fitted in something maybe they've got at the costume shop or at the studio. Once they've been ordered or constructed, there's going to be a lot less that you can do or change to that costume, maybe even nothing at all. So bring your concerns to your instructor and to the costume team, maybe both at the same time, maybe do an email. It could be, you can contact them in, different ways and let them know that you have concerns about fit and ask them what they plan to do to accommodate people who maybe can't wear like a teeny tiny thin spaghetti strap because, there's going to be a wardrobe malfunction or you're going to hit yourself in the eye, okay? There was a time in my life where that was possible for me. So make sure you make them aware of that because especially if they don't have that problem, they are not thinking about it and it's not personal, right? Don't take it personally that they didn't think about every little eventuality of somebody's, self-consciousness and body dysmorphia and etc. That's not what they're trying to do. They see you as a dancer and they just want to put you in a nice costume. So advocate for yourself. Don't let someone run you over with a costume that you're like, wait, I had no idea this was happening. Don't let that happen. Get ahead of it and talk and communicate with those people. Because I guarantee you, if you're enjoying enough time in that class that you're actually going to participate in a performance, I bet you that your teachers are cool enough and kind enough that they will listen to you and help you do what they can to support you. And then also make sure you've got appropriate undergarments on hand as soon as possible so that you can try them on at a fitting. So a lot of places will require you to have either like nude or white briefs, depending on what you're wearing on the bottom, or perhaps just a nude leotard. So you would put the nude leotard on, put your tights over that, and then you would have a costume on top of that. It makes for really easy, quick changes, and then it keeps the sweat from you getting on the costumes and the old sweat from the costumes getting on you. So do look into some good undergarments. And then if you're a dance creator or a director, somebody who is leading ballet or dance, here's a couple of things I have for you to think about too. Since you've listened to this whole thing, now you're aware. Ask your dancers about their special costume accommodations, and that could be for anything. That could be for large chests, that could be for a shorter or a very long torso, to butt size, to hip size, you name it. It can be anything, but just opening up that line of communication. If it's something you have on your radar, that's going to let your dancers feel way more comfortable with you and ultimately for a better performance because everyone is confident in what they are performing in. What I would do is send a mandatory email survey if privacy or accountability is an issue. So if you don't want to, you don't want everyone to, one, you probably don't have time to talk to everybody at the end of class, and two, your students may not be comfortable talking out loud about this really sensitive issue, and they may want to have time to craft a good answer and think about all of the things they want to ask you about. So send out a Google survey is free. You do a Google form, get all those questions down, and then that way you can kind of sort that out and see if you can choose a costume that's going to fit for everybody. And now you've got the information to do so. And then have multiple costume fittings if possible, whenever possible, at least 2. So adjustments can be made and tested. So if you're constructing something special or you're changing a costume in a drastic way, like adding extra fabric in order to make it wider or longer, make sure that those changes are done in time for those dancers to practice their dance in the costumes themselves. That's so important. I am a seamstress. I do make dance costumes. So you always want to be testing out those changes so you don't have any last minute wardrobe malfunctions. And oh my gosh, I've been talking forever. But now we are to the portion of the podcast where I'm going to answer some of your questions. So thank you so much for submitting a question. Let's see what we have here. So So I asked everyone to submit questions about my breast reduction. So the first one is it helpful? How long does it take to heal? So yes, incredibly helpful. Like I said before, 11 out of 10 would recommend, would do again. So I am definitely an advocate for it. It changed my life, absolutely, literally. And then how long does it take to heal? I think that's just a personal thing. They've told me it was going to be about 8 weeks. That was what I was restricted to as far as exercise. As far as I can remember, I think I was doing pretty well at 7 weeks. But it could be shorter. It could be longer. That depends on what your body does and how well you're able to take care of yourself in the post-op weeks. So, but that's what they told me on average. It's about 8. Second one is, how long did you have to take off of ballet sports after surgery? So as I said, about 8 weeks, but I couldn't do anything high impact or even medium, in any type of impact until that 8-week mark. Third is, how did you manage finances for this surgery, and would you do it again? Definitely would do it again. I'll say it one more time. And then as far as finances, I worked kind of my little part-time job while I was in school, saving up. I lived at home at the time. Again, it worked out for me very well. It would be harder for me to do it today, but I just cut expenses on everything. It's something I wanted really badly. And then like I said, I split it between medical credit cards that had a special interest rate of 0% interest for 24 months. For only $3,700, it wasn't that much. That was pretty easy for me to pay off. So, but you may have different options available to you, or you may want to just save for a long time and pay cash totally. Again, as far as the price of it, it's probably gone up by now, I would guess, because everything's gone up. But mine again was about $7,500, everything included, back in 2012. Or I'm curious to ask, did it feel painful in the process? No, I was completely out cold. So I didn't feel anything except for that little tiny bit when I was waking up. And then it's just kind of uncomfortable because you can't do everything that you're used to doing. So it's probably mentally more uncomfortable than it is actually physically painful. But again, they told me this all depends on your pain tolerance, on the way your body repairs itself. So that could vary wildly individual to individual. Number 5, what was the main reason? Well, it was definitely to audition for graduate schools and feel super confident. But also, I was just miserable trying to wear clothes, trying to find anything that would fit my chest, but then fit the rest of my body, always feeling like everything looked hypersexual when I put it on. I really hated that. I not that I'm not a sexual person, but it definitely was like that's the first thing somebody sees on someone like me at the time. Like I said, I didn't really have the proportions that made it make sense. I wasn't a very large person. So if I'd had, the body mass, I think, to match up with, to be proportional with the boobs that I had, I probably would have been okay as far as mentally, I would have been, but I wasn't. It was absolutely, I looked ridiculous. I looked like somebody had made a mistake or like had stuck a bicycle pump in me. So, those are some of the main reasons. But it was definitely complex. Unrelated, but how long have you been a dancer for? You are incredible. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. I've been dancing a little bit on and off since I think I started officially at like 11. Yeah, and then on and off. But I'll do a whole ballet dance history episode soon, maybe number 7 or 8. And then next one is, did you have a reduction? Yes, I did, as you just heard. Next one, have you experienced HS? If I am assuming correctly what you mean by that, and you're talking about the autoimmune condition, I have not experienced that, no. I hear it is not a good time though. So if you are suffering with that, my thoughts are with you. Next, any bra recommendations under leotards? Whew, I probably could have told you some back like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, but unfortunately I do not wear a bra underneath my leotards anymore. I basically decided to get parts of me cut off so I would never have to do that again. So I dislike it. So I wish I had some recommendations for you. I will say actually that I do buy this and this is for regular clothes too, but I do buy this stretchy fabric boob tape from Amazon. It's like $8 for a roll. And I will wear that if I'm wearing something that's like a normal person clothes that's not very supportive, like a dress that's low cut. It's really good for, I actually wore it for some photos I took of my snow costume because I wanted just like a little extra little lift up because I wasn't going to have time to alter the costume to be fitted enough. And so, yeah, I do use that on occasion, but not usually under leotard because leotard kind of shows like lumps and bumps, and I'm not very good at taping very smoothly. But I do like that product. I will link it in the show notes. And last one, how long is recovery? Again, I guess same thing I said. They quoted me about 8 weeks, and it took me just about 8 weeks to feel really confident to go back and kind of resume my normal life. So it's a long time. Could be longer for you. It could be shorter for you. I think that's the average that they tell people. And that is the last question. So we'll just end the episode here. Thank you so much if you have made it to this point. I hope you found the episode to be at least entertaining and hopefully a little helpful. Again, if you have questions about anything that I mentioned in the podcast, you are welcome to send me a DM on Instagram. That is at the Longshot Ballerina. Or you can send an email, if that's more your speed, to longshotballerinas@gmail.com. That is with the S, longshotballerinas@gmail. And I will write you back. If you did find anything helpful, I would love it if you would subscribe to the podcast, whatever platform you are on, to leave a review and a rating if you are on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Check out the website, longshotballerinas.com. Share the podcast if you would. If you like it, please tag me on Instagram. I would love to know what you think. I love talking to you guys. We have such a fun little community just in adult ballet dancers in general, and there's some really fun stuff coming up. So please keep an eye out next week. We will have our very first episode that is an interview. It's going to be an unexpected interview, but super fun and obviously ballet themed. We will also be doing a giveaway. I'm so excited. It's a tiny one. It's just a small thing, but you can keep an eye out for the post on the Instagram about how to enter that giveaway, and I'll announce and talk a little bit more about it next week on Thursday. That will be episode 5. Okay, so please look forward to that. Have a great rest of your day or evening wherever you are, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.